Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will talk about top 10 most controversial books in history. 10. The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie. This one's provoked some serious controversy. Published in 1988 as Rushdie's fourth novel, it features two Indian Muslims named Jibreel and Saladin, who are trapped on a hijacked plane. When it explodes, they're magically saved. But Jibreel assumes the persona of the archangel Gabriel and Saladin that of a demon. Thus begins a pretty toxic association with long-lasting effects on both of them. One feature of the novel is fictionalized dream visions of the Prophet Muhammad's life, and this is where the controversy comes in. The title is taken from an incident in the book where the Prophet apparently receives a revelation from Satan, mistaken for God, telling him to worship 𝐦𝐤𝐤, 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐤, and Manat. The three are goddesses from polytheistic pre-Islamic times. Other events in the book that have caused offense are a scene where a number of prostitutes dress up as the Prophet's wives and a companion of the Prophet who declares that he's changed parts of the Quran he was doubtful about as it was dictated to him. 9. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Popular in its own right, a number of highly publicized film versions have helped catapult this 1955 novel into stardom. It centers on the eponymous Lolita, a 12-year-old American girl who spends most of the book trapped in a pedophiliac relationship with her stepfather, Humbert. Nabokov initially struggled to find publishers. Viking, Simon & Schuster, Doubleday, and many others turned him down. Eventually, he resorted to printing it through the French Olympia Press, which predominantly published erotica. Compared to the Satanic Verses, the international reaction might seem muted. Britain and France both banned the book, but for no more than a few years each. Interestingly, though, unlike the other books on this list, the controversy surrounding Lolita has arguably grown in some areas rather than diminished as time has passed. It's an exquisitely written book full of literary allusions and beautiful prose. However, the subject matter is of course very disturbing, and I think it's fair to suggest that modern readers are more sensitive to the sexual abuse of Lolita than 1950s readers might have been. Many 20th century critics, such as Lionel Trilling, found Humbert a sympathetic character, and did not dispute his own claims that Lolita initiated their relationship. In recent decades, however, critics have pointed out how unreliable Humbert's narration is, and many have explicitly called him out as a rapist, something less common in the wake of its direct publication. 8. The Chocolate War by Robert Cormier. In 1974, Cormier's The Chocolate War was one of the earliest novels to have been recognizably published within the 𝐥𝐤𝐤 designation. It tells the story of Jerry, a 14-year-old student at a Catholic high school who becomes embroiled in a conflict between the faculty and the school's secret society. Think elements of Lord of the Flies and A Separate Peace. The book has often been challenged for its portrayals of sex, language, and violence, common complaints when it comes to young adult literature. It's been banned at one point or another in at least 14 states and challenged in a score of others. The most recent of these seems to have been in 2007. Though things have calmed down since then, Cormier was, in general, a controversial author. His books were criticized many times for their content, but his own response was that the kids can absorb my kind of book because they know this kind of thing happens in life. 7. Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller. This is essentially the book that broke the United States obscenity laws, much the way Lady Chatterley's Lover did for the UK. Tropic of Cancer was published in 1934 and is a semi-autobiographical account of Miller's life, featuring numerous explicit sex scenes. The original publication was in France. The U.S. Customs Service banned its import, and legal attempts to have Miller recognized as a serious writer failed. The book was not published in America until 1961 by Grove Press. Immediately, there were scores of lawsuits, with 60-plus suits being brought in 21 states over booksellers who stocked it. A number of state courts ruled it obscene and upheld the ban, but it went all the way to the Supreme Court in 1964, where Grove Press eventually prevailed in the case Grove Press, Incorporated versus Gerstein. Since then, the novel has frequently been cited as one of the best works of literature of the 20th century. 6. Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. This is basically the OG of controversial books, causing ripples not just in the UK, but in a number of other countries too. Lawrence's 1928 story traces the eponymous Lady Chatterley, whose husband has been rendered impotent due to a disability. She ends up embarking on an affair with her groundskeeper Oliver. Cue a book of profanity and explicit adulterous sex. I can personally confirm that on a literary level, this book is rubbish. It's boring, underdeveloped, and overuses the words bowels so many times that if you had a pound for each instance, you'd be Jeff Bezos. Being banned in 6 countries though, the UK, Australia, Canada, Japan, the US, and India. Seems a little harsh. The unexpurgated version could not be published in the UK until 1960, 30 years after Lawrence's death and 32 years after it was first published in Italy. This gave rise to the landmark R.V. Penguin Books Lit trial, which tested the newly passed Obscene Publications Act 1959. If it could be proven the work had literary merit, it would be allowed to pass unscathed. A range of witnesses, including E.M. Forster and Raymond Williams, were called to testify. It was eventually judged not obscene, and this paved the way for the relaxation of publication law. 5. Forever by Judy Blume. Blume's novel clocks in at number 7 on the American Library Association's list of 100 most frequently challenged books, 1990 to 2000. Considering it came out in 1975, that's at least 25 years of controversy. That's all down to the book's portrayal of teenage sex and sexuality. 18-year-old Catherine and her new boyfriend, Michael, are aware that sex is something that they will have to navigate in their relationship. Their frank discussions of losing one's virginity, as well as Catherine's use of birth control, have led to the novel being banned in numerous secondary schools. While it's no longer as controversial, numerous novels nowadays center on portrayals of safe sex. It remains mildly notorious for its historical associations with illicit reading. 4. Ulysses by James Joyce. First published in 1922, Joyce's novel enjoys a reputation as one of the foremost literary masterpieces of the 20th century. It was published in France, which is a trend you may have noticed with a lot of books on this list. The content was considered controversial for what by now readers will know to be pretty standard reasons: obscene language and sexual content. Interestingly, however, there's also a bit of publishing controversy here. Its history is quite involuted. There were over 18 editions, each one striving to correct the errors in the previous version. The first edition had over 2,000 errors, but often adding more in the process. The 1984 edition by 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤 was one such edition. His attempt to create a perfect text involved accreting numerous versions and manuscripts from different places, leading to a lot of erosions and textual ambiguity. 3. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Alice Walker's 1982 novel narrates the story of Silly, an African-American girl growing up during the first half of the 20th century. She also has a relationship with a female blues singer, 𝐥𝐤𝐤. The book instantly garnered critical acclaim, winning the 1983 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, with Walker being the first black woman to win. However, its depictions of explicit violence, sex, and bad language have generated controversy, as well as the showcasing of a same-sex relationship. The extent to which the novel engages in stereotypical representations of black men as prone to violence has also been questioned. 2. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Salinger's 1951 novel has achieved pretty much cult classic status as an icon of adolescent angst. Each year, 1 million copies still get sold, and more than 65 million have been sold in total. The book tells the story of 16-year-old Holden Caulfield, whose musings on such themes as innocence and identity seem to hold a perennial, if from my perspective, inexplicable, appeal for countless readers. 1. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. A book about a man turning into a bug seems like an odd choice for this list on the surface, but the themes in the Metamorphosis focus on isolation and estrangement. Kafka was banned in his home country of Czechoslovakia because he wrote it in German. It was also banned by the Nazis and Soviets. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. Before you go, please